All right, so welcome to Edutainment for Us. It's another new day. Today is Saturday. Sabbath people, I hope you have a happy Sabbath. Today is Saturday. As you attend your sermons in church. So welcome once more. And I'm so happy to wake up and start a new day on Edutainment for Us. We appreciate all of you who are coming handy to participate in our engagement here as Edutainment for Us. Of course, we trust in informing you with researched information and live events that are happening across the world. So today we land on Uganda and the situation of Kenya based on yesterday's videos that were actually run during the book launch of J.B. Muturi's book, Putting Things to Order. So do you trust that in Kenya actually things are going to be put to order? All right, so I hope that indeed this is going to happen. And I'm so glad for those who will be watching. I know you are preparing and coming very soon. So I appreciate as we slowly come in one by one. This is Prissy for you. And I am a political analyst, at the same time social analyst, and vlogger who does also personal content, among other things, including lessons. I have 3 or rather 4 channels, but I'm actively on 2 channels, that is Life Saga and Edutainment for Us. Of course, every day I make sure I post. On Edutainment for Us, at least I have 3 videos to post every day. One which is political, one social, sometimes a lesson or a vlog or another political video. So welcome, and thank you so much for supporting my work. I really appreciate, and may God bless you in your endeavors, as I have always said. So what's popping in Uganda? Of course, Uganda, we understand very well democracy in Uganda has been ripped off, or rather robbed, or rather raped. Which one? Any of those will apply. So when you look at the situation of people like Besigye has gone through a tough time. Of course, we are told there was also a personal conflict after Besigye married former wife of Museveni. But looking at the political temperature in Uganda, of course, it might be just as worse than what we saw in Tanzania. And of course, we are going to watch over what will happen during the elections, because they are looming elections. And of course, as obvious, Museveni is going to be a candidate. Remember, Museveni said that he's not going to step down for anybody. All he has to do is, if someone wants to take over the presidential position of Uganda, he told them to go to the bush and take over the problem as that. All right. So we go on with our analysis, and I hope that you are set to focus on our topic and not on the morphology of my nose, of my teeth, of my lips, or my head. So thank you so much, Charlotte. And maybe you can also expose your head so that we see how big it is. Thank you so much, and welcome in the house. All right. So our analysis, of course, Uganda, you saw recently there was an attack on Bobby Wine's team. And one problem that arose was as a result of Bobby Wine's wife waving to the people, and people are celebrating so much on that. So Museveni did not see that as a good thing. And he found that a point of argument, or rather, he had to send goons to attack Bobby Wine. So we'll be going down the story, and I don't know how we can actually help. Can we really help Uganda? No. Now, Kenyans, of course, the other day in Tanzania faced a very tough time, reminding us that it's not easy to invade another country and help. And of course, you know that Bobby Njagi and the other, activists are still stuck in Uganda. So automatically you understand that Uganda is not a land to play around with, but the situation in Uganda is so unfortunate. And of course, there was an individual who said that we have to talk about Uganda. And of course, we have so much popping in Kenya as well. So we'll be getting to that to update our political analysis, especially during the launching of J.B. Muturi's book, where things are being put to order. So Valeria and Tamara, welcome in the house. Thank you so much. You just said, oh, I don't know whether you said oh to Charlotte or there is something else, but welcome, welcome in the house. We move ahead. That is what we always say here. All right, so into analysis. We saw very well Bobby Wine vocal on the streets telling the police in Mbarara that they have also to watch what is happening in Uganda, because it's not going to affect him alone, but it's going to affect the entire Ugandan population. So let's check to what Bobby Wine was trying to say here. And what do you think about this? Drop a comment based on that, and let's move ahead in this analysis. So at Mbarara, of course, we saw the police arrest a dozen of NUP campaign team members in Mbarara, just like we saw Tanzania, it happened that in April and earlier on, we saw a lot of members from Chidema party and any other party being arrested. Now the same is being observed in Uganda. And of course, you must understand that a lot of Ugandans are afraid of Museveni. They really don't want to speak. They don't even want to go to the internet. So in fact, if I may say, Kenya, we really enjoy a lot, and I hope this will not come to an end, because this is part of what we enjoy in our daily existence. So let's get to Mbarara and see what was happening right there before we do our continuous analysis. And thank you for coming to the house. I'll urge you to subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you really think that it's worth your time. And I appreciate also for you sacrificing your time and coming here. Thank you so much. May God bless you abundantly in your endeavors, and also in the moment you take off from your normal activities to watch me. I appreciate. So let's see this.
From there, a sea of red and white swept through Mbarara city as Chagulanyi's convoy rolled out. For nearly 3 hours, the streets were paralyzed. Businesses shut their doors and traffic came to a complete standstill as thousands lined the roadside to wave at their candidate.
So guys, as you can see, of course, that is Bobby Wine with a campaign tour of NUP taking to campaigns in Uganda. Of course, you understand that Uganda is going into election very soon. And of course, we just hope. You know, it's about hope. They say, even if everything else is stripped of you, you must remain with hope. And I hope that this is what we can focus on. So let's get to see what Njagi, the big head, forehead like myself, is out to say. Okay. So, we see that Njagi, actually, you need a lot of confidence and daring spirit to do anything to do with the campaigns in Uganda. You don't need to be faint-hearted, because if you read the history of Uganda, that is one of the countries where dictatorship is being practiced, and Museveni is doing all that he can to ensure that he remains to be the leader forever. He has changed the constitution, he has adjusted his age. Up to now, he continues to rule Uganda since the times of Idi Dada. So let's see this. And you can see the large crowd celebrating Bobby Wine. But then my question is, what normally happens at the polls? Because we always see as the elections go ahead, finally, Museveni is announced the winner and he continues to rule. Will he ever come out of leadership just like we saw in Kenya? Moi, who was also dominant, coming out. But it's not about people on the streets. It's about the constitution. Does the constitution of Uganda allow people to freely go in and venture into politics? That is a big question you have to ask. Look, so let's check at this crowd and do an analysis again.
The first rally in Mbarara High School playgrounds went smoothly. Chagulanyi addressed the charged crowd laying out his 11-point manifesto touching on governance, youth empowerment, education, and economic justice. The energy was high, and everything seemed to be moving according to plan. Then came the twist. As his convoy headed to Wiziwera for the second rally of the day, something unusual happened. Two police armored tear gas trucks, the same ones that had previously been used to blocking his routes, this time cleared the way, allowing his convoy to pass. Barely a kilometer later, the calm shattered. Another set of police trucks suddenly appeared ahead, blocking the Mbarara-Ibanda highway. Almost instantly, the earlier two vehicles that had cleared the way returned, this time sealing off the convoy from behind. In a flash, the NUP team was ambushed. What followed was chaos.
So of course, guys, if you have gone through the history of Uganda, you understand that in Uganda, the military are most times used by the current authority to do what they have to do. We have seen most times like Besigye and how he was harassed earlier on. We've seen so many times Bobby Wine also mishandled. We've seen the Kenyan man, Bob Njagi, and his friend also stuck in Uganda. And the whereabouts of these two people are just a kind of mystery that will only be unlocked once they are back to Kenya. So Uganda is not a place to actually joke around with, because the military have been highly, we can say blood, there is a whole circular of block mines and around them. So we see that the team that came from Mbarara have had very successful campaigns at Mbarara High School. But while going to the next destination, they never got it there because the forces had been stopped. Possibly an informant here had let Museveni aware of the success that was going to happen. And the looming success from Bobby becomes a threat to Museveni. Remember, his son is now big enough to take over power. So possibly, people have been speculating that maybe Museveni has been waiting for his son to grow up and take over power. Will this be another dynasty? Let's watch and see. So the police actually had to stop and attack and arrest the campaign team. And of course, what happens after arrest is people are mishandled, they are, harassed until they have to switch allegiances. So let's see what happened here.
From the field force unit descended on the crowd, arresting and assaulting NUP supporters.
This man said they're going to take the Gaza to move.
Murife! Run!
Shouts filled in the air as party leaders demanded explanations. But no one responded. Police kept on dragging NUP supporters away, one after another.
Leaders on the way, block us from reaching Wiziwera, and then they are rounding off our people like they did in Kalangala. Shame on the regime.
In the middle of the commotion, Kyagulanyi himself found his car keys snatched by a man in plain clothes, believed to be operative. But the presidential candidate chased after him, demanding his property back.
So you can imagine that they are hired goons, maybe possibly some even in military, but having dressed in a normal cloth. So they had to snatch away keys from these people. Some of them were picking some stuff, harassing the campaign team and the supporters and forcing them to sit down. They were questioned a lot of questions and forced to sit, and they could not move more to the next place. Of course, we see Bobby Wine was making a lot of noise and demanding, but of course, no one would listen. So it is so unfortunate that you wonder sometimes when the military or the police behave like this, do they experience what the citizens also go through? Because the reality is that even though Uganda seems to be steady and behave as if they support fully the president, the current president, the situation is not true. So let's check at this and see how Bobby Wine demands from the police.
You know what? No, please. Okay? I see my people. I request.
So that is Bobby Wine making demands.
I request. Let's go to the camp. Please. I request.
Moments later, after a standoff that lasted nearly an hour, a handful of vehicles, including those carrying Kyagulanyi and members of the media, were allowed to leave the scene. The rest of the convoy, along with dozens of supporters, were left behind in police custody. Nobody knows their whereabouts and what happened to them. When asked whether Kyagulanyi had any prior knowledge of the operation or the reason behind the arrests, Kyagulanyi says he was equally shocked by the ambush.
We were waylaid, as you saw, the same thing they did in Kalangala. They waylaid us, rounded up our people, journalists, women. They took many girls, including my sister, who they beat so bad and pepper sprayed her at close range. We are asking them to give us those people so we can take them to hospital. They are still holding on to them. Of course, we know these are signs of fear. These are signs of cowardice. The regime just can't believe that we got such a huge welcome and we command such big support in Western Uganda, in Ankole, and in Barara. You know, they've been doing all these things. They first arrested our people, including Edimutwe, Achireo, Waiswa, Gaddafi, and many others. And they've been doing the same thing. They came to Arua, to Lira, they rounded off 10 of our people. Now, when we were coming here, you all saw how we were attacked by goons wearing yellow t-shirts and holding Museveni's posters.
Yeah, so the tactics that are used in politics in Africa sometimes is about intimidation. So when the leader feels intimidated and feel like the power is almost getting off their hands, all they have to do is to ensure that they intimidate the supporters. So the supporters who have been beaten and rounded and actually held on, regardless of the pain and injuries, may never turn up again in any of the forums where we see Bobby Wine or his team. There is no way again you will go to such a rally because life is worth it. So the people now give in because sometimes intimidation works in a regime which is based on what we call dictatorship, and that does not trust in what we call democracy. And in Africa, this is happening so strongly. I don't know who will serve the situation, but it's quite disappointing because we have these leaders who are greedy for power. They are associated with the urge to continue ruling. They want to create dynasties. And for years after years, they'll keep watching the space of political, authority. And because they don't want to lose that power, having known what ills they have practiced, so they'll continue using illegal ways to intimidate. And unfortunately, the military always subdue to their powers because possibly they have been made to believe that the only way they can survive it's by supporting the current regime. So let's look at this video here as Bobby Wine is addressing the army, reminding them that whatever they are doing is not good. It's a full shutdown actually on the process, and he's reminding them that they are aware of what is happening in Uganda, and he does not understand why they were supporting the team, the goons, those who had t-shirts written the name of Museveni and placards, but all this is in vain. So let's look at this.
So kakati bali mukutupa bali mugamba nti ate ffe okubeera nga tutambula nga tugenda gye twali tugenda gwabadde musango. Okay? Ekyo kya buswavu nnyo. Museveni should be ashamed of himself. Byabakama, Mr. Byabakama, you've not come out to talk about the attack. You've not come out to talk about the attack on us by people wearing yellow t-shirts, by people protected by police. You've not come out to talk about that. Cameras showed Muchivi, a police officer, and a group of officers escorting criminals to attack people, throw stones at us. You've not talked about that, but you are.
Yeah, so guys, if you look at Africa, sometimes I look at it and I feel so sorry for our motherland. The other day we saw what happened in Cameroon, we saw what happened in Cote d'Ivoire, we saw what happened in Tanzania. Now the wave is moving to Uganda. And of course, you've seen how people are being molested, how they are being pushed, how they are being humiliated. For how long will this go on? It's a question we don't have an answer for, unless maybe people just decide it's enough. And of course, I wonder why a leader would actually trust that because they fought from the bush to take over power, the only way out again for another leader to come in is not through voting or election, but it's through the same way, but somebody has to go to the bush and again remove him from power. And of course, when we look at the current generation, they are not in to go for wars from the bush. Their wars start with them talking about maybe what they are discontent about. They also talk about the situation and what they have to make better. And of course, we saw at Marara, Bobi Wine had shared what he wants to do for the citizens in relation to education. He said he wants universal education where everybody, regardless of where they come from, will have equal education. He wanted also to focus on health, among other matters. Now, if you look at Uganda, of course, Uganda has a lot of resources. To tell you the truth, if Uganda really focuses to marshal their resources, it will be one of the richest countries. We've seen how much they produce very big bananas. They do produce very big, everything that is planted in Uganda is big, including everything. I don't know what to say, but the grains and everything. So if they really marshal their resources and focus on democracy, it would be a nation that someone would not compete against. Anyway, so Bobi Wine continued speaking. He did not keep quiet. And let's see what he says here.
At the time to see when I was going to buy maize and you talked about it. Museveni himself, the criminal that he is, he has not talked about that. He has not talked about the tribal sentiments. He has not talked about the attack in Kiruhura. But he's talking about me and my wife waving to people as if it's a crime. These people should be ashamed of themselves. To all of you Ugandans, you see what is happening to the international community. You see what is happening. Dictator Museveni, who has been in power for 40 years, is reading from the same book that all dictators do. Now look what they are doing. We are heading for a rally, waylaid us along the road, beat up our people, pepper sprayed us, and they...
Someone made a call to affected my... Someone was making a call and affecting my my live stream, and these are cons because that is an Equitel number, and no one should call Equitel number. Actually, no one calls that number. So when I see any call from that number, automatically I know that these are scammers that are trying to reach me, but they'll not make it. So actually, Bobi Wine came out to clearly say, and everybody knows, international bodies know, but I don't know for whatever reason they fear Uganda, because I don't know what Museveni does to them. They never address matters in Uganda, but the level of intimidation that happens is just too high. When you look at what he does, like being 40 years in power is not easy. You know, as other countries speak on democracy, like Kenya, we used to have a president who led for so many years. But when democracy landed, finally we had to have democracy and multi-party playing part. Though we have foul games going on, and I'm going to talk about it in a few. But when you look at Uganda, the situation is worse, because the kids who are born seeing Museveni lead are now old, but they cannot see the power. According to what is being exhibited, they just have to see him leading and leading forever, but they'll never see power. So let's get to see some other videos here. How now the target moved from just Bobi Wine to the wife. You know, sometimes if someone wants you to subdue, they'll have to attack your wife because they know that is your soft spot, or they'll attack your children. So it's happening now that actually Bobby Wine surrounded by heavy police deployment in Barara on 8th November 2025, and at the same time the wife is targeted. So let's just watch over this as we talk about it, and please continue dropping comments. I can see comments on the matter. People are only focusing. The first person, Charlotte, was focusing on morphology. Valeria just said, oh, and then I can see many people taking part. So please talk about this aspect of Uganda, because it's part of our nation, guys. So let's check on this currently happening in Barara.
Kubanga emotoka president bagimenye bwena eyalabe president ng'agoba omusirikale yabadde abbye ebisumuluzo.
All right, Skamarwa. Charlotte is talking about my forehead, reminding me that it's big. But as long as I can carry it, I don't worry. So don't worry about that, Skamarwa, because of course our forehead should be big enough. It's evident that it carries a lot of brains. When it is too small, all right. So Bobby Wine actually was set to head to Rwambara in Uganda. Unfortunately, the political temperature in Uganda, all of us know, it's a dictatorial leadership full of intimidation, you know, a voracious kind of leadership, and all that leads to an element of intimidation. So Bobby Wine was intimidated yesterday, and today again, he has faced the same situation, and I think 5 days ago, he had to go through the same experience. Now, of course, currently we know that in Uganda, even a foreigner, if Museveni realizes that you as a foreigner in Uganda is backing up the opposition, that is the NUP, you will not have peace. Automatically, you will be pushed out of the country or put behind bars, and your location will never be known. Because when you look at the Kenyans who were abducted, we call it abduction because the way they were picked, it was more of abduction. So the Kenyans who were abducted in Uganda up to now, you know, it's just like hearsay. People are not so sure where they are. Okay? And as Kenya keeps quiet about it, you know, I wonder sometimes why Kenyan authorities don't follow up on their people. So we've seen the press talking about it. By yesterday, we heard that now Kenya is pressing answers or to Uganda to give them information about where the two are. We saw something about Musalia Mudavadi indicating that he really wants to see. But, you know, it's very funny that they have kept quiet for so long, because these two people actually disappeared. Is it 2 weeks ago? Yeah. Nicholas Oyo and Bob Njagi disappeared around 3 weeks ago, and in a kind of abduction. However, as people write concerns about the abduction and continue to press that they want to know where they are, as the human rights demand, the Kenyan government is just quiet about it. So you wonder whether they are doing it because they are also afraid of these activists. You know, sometimes if a country is worried about some activists, they'll also keep quiet even when they get a problem, and they'll say, who sent them there? Okay? But yet, it's a role of activists, and especially with the AU and such unions, to see them going to the other part. So let's see what is going on in Uganda currently, and the state of affairs is as below as we go in to discuss more. So the military are strongly guarding places.
okiraba ekigenda mu maaso eno isi gye baatuwa nti eno ebeere ne pulezidenti yeno gye baatuweera ddala kyerina okutambula ne pulezidenti yiyo omusajja agikiisa bane mulaba bulungi oba nze siraba mulaba babagambye temubaako gye mulaga oba tenye mafuta simanyi kyebaagala oba baagala okuwamba mukulembeze sikitegeera mubeereko bubeezi bannaye oba tonna bakusheyalinga olidde mu nsi y'olugwe kiriya ekyakabinnyo bannaye netwakeerera erikiriya ne ku Facebook tulina engeri nina amasimu abiri.
So it's unfortunate, of course, when you follow up what's happening in Uganda already, the aspect of the internet, though it has not been locked down already as it happened in Tanzania, but what is happening is that they are really keen about the activities going on. They are ready to arrest people, and whenever rallies are happening, especially for NUP, they are waylaying them on the road and ensuring that they arrest them and harass the supporters, because they want a situation whereby Bobi Wine will go to a place and people will not turn up. And of course, such a situation can happen because once individuals are suppressed, if they are suppressed early, human beings have a breaking point. And when they feel like their fight is hopeless and it's not going to give them the answers they need, automatically they'll give up and maybe walk away from the scenes. And even during voting, they may not turn up. A situation that we even saw in Tanzania. And at the end of the day, the announcement gives the automatic win to whoever believes that he's the dynasty. And I don't know, in the process, what needs to be done? What does Uganda need to do? Because we came out to talk about Tanzania when, of course, I talked about it earlier and all that, but a lot of people only focused on Tanzania when demonstrations were on and elections had already happened, not before. So I don't know. I don't know why there is no focus, like even the international bodies. They only come in after demonstrations of the burning of the country and people are dying, but they don't talk about it earlier. Yet they can see, it's evident that they can see what is happening in Mbarara, Uganda generally, as Bobi Wine is being blocked left and right, and people are being arrested and beaten around while the goons are being used. But nobody in international ends are talking about it. What will happen is they will wait, and maybe if something comes up post-election, that is when they do. By the way, why does this happen? Yesterday I was doing an analysis of something, and it was like a global control. There is a global control that happens even in how our countries are led, even in how our economics are ran, even in how matters are managed. So generally, people keep quiet because they don't want to help. They don't want to help Africa to progress. Possibly those international bodies are not interested in the progress of our nations. So they want only to talk about our situations when we are on our knees, when some people are in our graves, when others are being possibly are, beyond repair, when something is not totally right, when the reverse gear is totally unable to work for us. So I don't actually understand why this happens. But when you look at Uganda, generally the government is always afraid of anything to do with democracy. They always have to witch hunt anyone who comes up and speaks as Bobi Wine is doing. And we know that he may not be the best maybe, but why not have some change so that we experience another president of Uganda? Why should we always have Museveni as the best, Museveni as the only one, Museveni as the power? That is something very shocking. Because you look at the situation and wonder, during this moment of 2025, Would a country be only be led by one person who has been there for 40 years and is willing to lead for another 5 years? Boniface Efeather came here. There is someone who came here with very funny information. Elifi Hilligans. This is not actually a dating site, so we cannot have anything to do with kissing on such a platform. So please, may you be consider some sort of respect and decorum, actually, because you can see the discussion we are doing is very serious. We are not having amorous moments to discuss kisses right here. Elifi, Helenche, whatever. So Boniface Efeather, thank you so much. Continue participating in our dialogue or discussion over matters of Uganda. And very soon we are coming to talk about Kenya. We've already gone into 36 minutes and we are here for 1 hour or more. So let's check up on the situations that are still going on. And of course, things are at standstill. I wonder even some shops are still on. But when you look at the army, like a lot of money is put in the army by a country. They can afford to really block and hire goons, but they cannot do for the citizens. That's a very annoying situation as well.
balina enteekateeka ekwata abaana agambye baleete mugeza ne mukomenti ngaebigenda okuba bulokingisa naye lwaki
Subject phone has refused. I'm not refusing to Zoom, but the network, sometimes when the phone fails to Zoom, it's upon network, and I can't even go nearer him. But those who are watching on Kazora Media have managed to Zoom their pic, and I'm sure some of you have taken the screenshots. Let's make those screenshots viral, because what I know is one of the guy who will be pinpointing, arrest that one, take that one, and we are sure very well that we know also anytime, any day, we shall be arrested. But let us be arrested when we are creating awareness to people who are arresting us. Kabangala banange, those people, let's be calm. I've tried my level best. Those who have understood me, thank you. I've tried. Those who have ever used live camera. I watch you from Kazora Media Uganda, and the Omasa TV. Please, we appreciate you people. Be careful, guy. I got China. Yes, I'm aware about that. So I'm all doing what I'm doing to get, so that I can find space for me watching from real. Thank you whoever watching from where I am.
So what happens in such a nation is that whenever an individual, a kind of candidate announces maybe going to a certain place, then the police will wake up and go to the place, and they'll be having orders maybe to arrest and arraign in court or arrest. I don't know. I didn't know that in some countries, rallies themselves, that political campaigns are treated as illegal. Like in Kenya, of course, you will find goons coming to attack, but you will not find the army coming around to actually arrest. They will not come there to arrest the supporters. What they'll do is that maybe goons will come and then they'll disrupt peace, and maybe in the process, that is when they'll now announce and, create a bad image for that party and say that these people are disorderly. That is what I've been seeing in Kenya all the time for the ODM that recently I saw people praising left and right. But now in Uganda, it happens that even campaigning itself becomes a problem, because whenever you are campaigning, you head to a certain place, you are blocked by the police vehicles, they waylay you and they capture some of your people and take them away. They go molest them. This is violence of the highest order, what we call political violence and politics, in which they want to control. They want to control people psychologically. And it's unfortunate, actually, when will our people learn? Because I think sometimes if you want to retire with honor, if Museveni wants to retire with honor, he should just have said, bye-bye now, let my son maybe vie versus Bobby. But then, whatever he's doing is actually like he wants to retire in dishonor, or whatever it is he's preparing for, I'm not so sure. These are things we teach in literature. We keep saying that our nations have been bedeviled by this kind of people who want to be dynasties. They want to control the regime. They want to control the economics. They want to control everything, even the social life of the people. They want to structure everything from the social, political, economic, and all that. And that is why sometimes they suffocate education, because they know people who are literate sometimes get to have a problem. Tyrone, welcome. Tyrone says, good morning, my beautiful sister. May your day be glorious, beautiful, and bright. Sending you love from United States, from your family here. We love you. Don't let nobody apologize you. All right. Thank you, Tron, for your message. I'm grateful, and may God also keep your family in peace. And as we hope and also pray and long to actually have a Uganda transition, because they are stuck. They are literally stuck because their structure is made in a way that they colonize. You know, that is neocolonialism. So we have neocolonialism in Africa currently, where it's happening that some few people who take over power feel like they are dynasties and they are supposed to reign forever. So they control the people's minds, they control the people's lives, social life, political life, economic life, and they arrest everything. So when you see the intimidation happening in Uganda on Bobi Wine's team and NUP, generally, of course, Museveni knows that NUP is the strong party. Just like in Tanzania, Chama cha Mapinduzi realized that Chadema was the strong party. So it happens in most of the nations. Even in Kenya currently, I know that the government is monitoring to see which is the strong party. And then they'll rain on it and intimidate them, create propaganda, you know, use newspapers, sometimes use individuals, bloggers, and what have you to intimidate. I wish, you know, I watched Jamaican politics, and even if there were some falls here and there, I did analysis on my other platform, Life Saga TV, and even if there were downfalls here and there, some few scratches, at the end of the day, I've never seen an election whereby campaign teams of two different parties using the same route and there is no fight. And that, for the first time, I saw that happening in Jamaica, and I was like, okay, so it is possible that in a nation, if these people normally tell us that politics, we don't have permanent friends, we want to see such a scenario where we can just see NUP campaigning on the same road and Museveni's party also campaigning without violence, without fights, without intimidation. And that will be a nation that will really have matured. A nation that has matured, and they can tell us that indeed you can copy an example of Uganda. But when we look at what is happening in Uganda, they cannot tell us that whatever is happening there is an example of what we have to copy. Because we see the police filling the road just because there is a rally and they're afraid, they want to attack, they want to arrest, all that. So anyway, let's hope that as Bobi Wine heads to Rwambara, there'll be no blockage for today, because that is what exactly is happening, and intimidation that has been happening is not the best. All right? Yeah.
So tuli wano ku hotel president wali we yasuze embeera bwetuberi live muzira bakozi lintono. So leero tudda gundi erizoba tuli okusa Rwampara kusana ntunga muso abalwampara nantunga mo tuli omanda tuli ontuisha today.
All right, guys, away from the Ugandan politics, which we've taken 45 minutes to analyze, and we'll still come back to check on that later. Let's check on Kenyan politics. Of course, yesterday we saw Gachagua, Kalonzo Musyoka, we saw Fred Matiang'i, we saw Uhuru Kenyatta, among other prominent individuals in the election. Now, one person is telling me that Gachagua is merely a broker, and that is Miguna. And also I saw another message yesterday. Someone told me that Gachagua is a simple, broker who is coming around to create a population that will be behind him so that he can bargain with the government. Do you think this is true? May you drop a comment if you believe in what these other people are trying to actually create. Is that a fabrication or is that true? So Gachagua came out to pour a lot of information, including saying that at once people are being jacked out of the list of ministers, and he went ahead to defend. But then when I listened to whatever he was saying, I don't know why I felt like all the politicians kind of go to the table because they want to table their people. I just don't understand. Maybe in your thought, what is there? And on the other hand, I realized that sometimes even leaders just create lists and want to delete and fit in people without thinking of what impact those people will have to a nation. Okay? Tyrone says it's my hope and prayer for any and all states, countries, villages to be free from colonizing, oppress anyone that would hurt the people that I love. Pray that your day and that everyone else's day. Thank you so much for your prayer. I also pray and hope that this kind of, we call it anarchy, we use words such as violence, intimidation, power politics, all those. I just also pray that it should not happen at all, because when we continue seeing such manifestations in our nations, it becomes, even the mind itself is colonized, the pockets are colonized and everything. So when a nation has politics that are not very healthy, everything else is curtailed. And if you want to see the evidence, I want you to check in Kenya currently. Like even the government itself has twisted the narrative, and they're now focusing on fighting those who are coming up to fight for positions instead of focusing on development. Now let's listen to yesterday, of course, there was a book launch for Muturi. J.B. Muturi wrote a book. And during the deconstruction of his book, alongside other things, obviously we normally see a lot of Gachagua coming up with a lot of stories. But before that, we had heard that Matiang'i cannot work together with Gachagua for some reasons. However, Matiang'i has again said that the future, which is the united opposition, is not looking forward to have cardinals and priests working together. All they want is people will have a better government than the current one. And maybe we should put them to the task to let us know what is this, the better. When they say better, what is it that they have to provide for us? And this is something that citizens are forgetting. They are not even demanding or asking the united opposition to tell us in blue and white what exactly do we have from them. So I listened to so many people speaking during the yesterday's book launch, in J.B. Muturi's book launch, and I really appreciate when I see people writing books. I'm a writer, and I'm so happy that people can deconstruct what is happening in our nation and write about it. Of course, I'm planning to write some autobiography as well, or not autobiography as such, but a kind of biography or memo about our nation and what has been going on. I've seen a lot just the short time I've been here. So let's just check on what Matiang'i said, because people have been so critical about this. But yesterday, the platform allowed so many politicians to meet. We had Kalonzo Musyoka, J.B. Muturi, and all other politicians, especially on the opposition, sitting together, and also the former retired, or rather the former president of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, who now said that he does not expect the opposition to keep, throwing abuses or hurling abuses at each other. All he expects is that they should work towards one goal. And I saw, possibly because people are insinuating that Uhuru Kenyatta is the one who pushed ahead Matiang'i. So let's listen to Matiang'i, and then from there we can pay attention to what Kalonzo Musyoka said, what Uhuru Kenyatta said, as we come back to GACHAGUA himself and analyze what they are saying here. And then we'll be coming to something else. Thank you so much for those who are watching, liking the video. I remind you to also subscribe to the channel because it really means a world to me. And I appreciate for those of you who have been watching. Currently we are at 3,060 subscribers, and we believe that by the end of the month, if we keep the pace, we should be at 4,000 subscribers. I appreciate. May God actually keep you well and fine. So the peace aspect in a country, what brings peace in a country? We should be analyzing that in a few minutes.
Mr. Speaker, and all of you wonderful people present here today. For clarity, the Honorable David Murathe, who was being talked about, is my colleague member of Jubilee, the Vice Chairman of Jubilee. Kembi Gitura is also here, and Torome and Wanja Maina. These are now recently, for the business of this red shirt I'm wearing, some of my compatriots. And thank you all of you for being here. Because we are not going to make long speeches, I want to start first of all by congratulating Honorable Muturi for doing this book. In the 90s, I'm actually looking forward to reading it. In the 90s, in the mid-90s, I served on a small committee with Professor Henry Ndangasi and the others in designing at the graduate school at the University of Nairobi a course that we call the African Autobiography. Because for those of you who may be students of literature and linguistics, the autobiography...
Actually, I listened to what Matiang'i was saying in relation to literature, and I am a student of literature and linguistics. Of course, I'm a teacher of that, and I've also done an analysis at master's level. I've done an analysis of autobiography and used a theory there, narratology and autobiographic theory, focusing on aspects to do with that is Sudan, South Sudan, and looking at bush from bush to bush, and I walk a distance by the authors from South Sudan. So I understand when he talks about the fact that autobiography is a very fat field. One thing about autobiography, it tells us about the history of a nation in raw. Even if there are there is some creative aspects that come into these books, but currently, actually, I like memos and autobiography because they remind us about a long history. If you read the books I've just mentioned here, from the bush to bush, and I walk a distance, and maybe Leila also as the writer of South Sudan, you will get to understand a lot about Sudan, what happened then, and what happened before the war, and what is happening currently after the civil war. So there's a lot in memos, and I know that I'll be purchasing J.B. Muturi's book to read it and compare it to other books that have been written earlier. So anyway, away from that book, The Fight for Order, Muturi has written a book known as The Fight for Order. Nakabale Prosi, welcome to the house. Thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate your presence. Lucy, thank you for coming to the house, and welcome this morning, almost approaching mid-morning. So when people begin writing about things, you know, it's not easy to write. Many young people are running to AI. But when you sit down to write original information, before you even bring out a book, you will have taken a lot of days, sometimes spending late into the night, sometimes waking so early like a witch and all that. But for you to gather a book, it's not easy. Anyway, Matiang'i came out to share much about this book. And he also expressed some political aspects right here. Recently, he was in a station being, interviewed whether he could work with GACHAGUA or not. And even though the media are giving highlights like the reason why he can't work and all that I can say, he is ready to work with those because they want a united nation. And the citizens really want that. Because if they are going to push many candidates to the platform for presidential seat, the simple thing is that they'll not be going to give us a new government. But our question is, are we just going to recycle the people who have been there and maybe messed us? Those are the questions we should ask ourselves. And again, we put to the task these leaders to tell us what is this that they are going to do for us. What new thing are they going to do for us? Are they only collecting numbers and then they go to the table and say, we are having shares again? Or are they going to take care of every citizen from Turukana to Yala to Busia and Nyanza and all over the places? That is the kind of government that I really would wish. Nakabale Prosi says, Kyagulanyi Bobi Wine juu. All right. Ugandan people don't let us down. I've watched. Bobi Wine has a lot of support. Don't be like Tanzania. All right, I've watched. Bobi Wine has numbers. He has numbers in Mbarara and all over the places. So stand with Kyagulanyi, Bobi Wine, and don't let him down, regardless of the intimidations that they are going through. Because what I just want to see is a new kind of regime in Uganda. We have seen Museveni for too long. And he always beats his chest and dances, and whatever he's trying to show to the world is that in Africa we have only one person in a country who can lead forever. The same thing happened in Cameroon. Cameroon, where Paul Biya tried to show Cameroonians that they only trust him and nobody else, and I'm surprised. And all that, even Cote d'Ivoire, Ouattara. So it is surprising. Sean Dean, welcome. Thank you so much for coming in the house. I appreciate. Consider liking the video, and also if you are new here, remember to subscribe to the channel, and I really appreciate. Nakabale Prosi says, free all political prisoners. That is the demand that we should see in Uganda, because even when Bobi Wine was from Mbarara, his team was actually waylaid on the way, and so many were arrested. So let's look at what we saw Matiang saying here as we proceed.
I should reveal and what I shouldn't reveal. Then Eugene kept reminding me some of those are too sensitive to reveal. But I remember how we had a lot of discussions with JB the first time we started implementing the new constitution on how the president should behave when he goes to parliament. Because the big debate exists whether or not when the president enters parliament, he should actually sit down in parliament, because the president is not a member of parliament. And if you look at the body of knowledge that exists, especially from the US Congress and the others, because the president is not a member of the assembly, he walks in, puts the report on the table, reads the speech and walks out without sitting down, because he's not a member of parliament. Then we had a long evening with JB Muturi. And I was very fascinated by the authoritative basis on which he made his decisions. He pulled out all manner of authorities and so on. And as many of you who have been through this test, it was an intellectually fulfilling experience to see our own speaker getting into that space in a very authoritative manner and very exciting way. So here is my request to you, or my ask, JB. I'm going to, I've not read your book, so I'm going to read it now. And I hope you have delved into those issues like the ones I've said. When we have a presidential system of government in Kenya, the symbolism of whether or not the president should actually sit in parliament, whether it's a State of the Union or State of the Nation address, small nuances that a lot of people spend time writing on. If you look at the body of knowledge on legislative work across the world, there are small nuances that people dwell on, which are critical in terms of the formation of government and the character of government and how it moves forward. I ask you, therefore, to, beyond the autobiographical work that you have done, I would like to request you, Mr. Speaker, to now also help contribute complete and thorough bipartisan investigation by Parliament. No, none of us here, I don't know whether there's anybody even in this room who knows how many graves are in Shakahola and how many people died there. No thorough bipartisan parliamentary.
All right, so of course, when Matiang'i was speaking, he said that there is need for partisan aspect, that even presidential elements must take part in most of these discussions to seem serious. And I agree with that, because sometimes we get to have leaders who don't know the grassroots problems of the people. They only hear them from a distance, you know, and they take their very, you know, slight participation in this. And therefore, I agree with what Matiang'i is saying here, because from his sharing, it is necessary that we have leaders who know things. You know, they understand information from the fingertips. They should understand, for example, if you're talking about a school where students banned, how many banned, and what was the problem. If it is the graves, the mass graves, for example, in Shakahola, how many graves were there? And what was the verdict? But we have a leadership where sometimes people are just working on rumors. They are not very much attached to the problems. They don't go to the specific sites when there are problems. And therefore, we get to have media also sharing information without actually investigating. That is why before I share information, I really research and sometimes make calls. People call, they give information on the ground. And that is why I don't rush. When something is happening, I wait first and then now give information later, because I'll be so sure about what I'm sharing. Now, Muturi stood up and appreciated those who had attended, and Gachagua later on gave information about him, but we are going step by step. So I want us to look at what we saw. Nakalabe says yes. Oh, there was some disconnection, but we've come back. You know, sometimes the internet, the taxation has been so high that you buy as many bundles as you can, but I'll be feeling the router very soon, so that I don't keep buying bundles. So Muturi stood up and was sharing information right here.
Mr. Michael Rotich Sialai, that we will need to consider. I'm aware, I'm sorry, that most of the members of parliament are absent, and gotten an apology from both the speaker and the clerk that they are having what is called the Speakers Round Table meeting with KEPSA, Kenya Private Sector Alliance, in Mombasa. But someone said if they could sneak out, they could fly back to Nairobi. You know, those kind of meetings, members of parliament cannot discuss in Nairobi because they can't get anything. Anyway, yeah, they don't like. Like I say, my good friend Honorable Mule, is the truth. Members of parliament will not get the staff properly if you hold meetings like those ones in Nairobi. They prefer either in Mombasa, mainly Mombasa, or Naivasha. The environment there is usually conducive for members of parliament. So that's why many of them are not here. And an apology had been given on their behalf.
What a cover-up.
By the clerk and the speaker. Many of my colleagues, judges, particularly, obviously not able to attend. A very eloquent former Minister for Defense, the Honorable Eugene Ludovic Wamalwa.
Oh my God. So of course I want us to get to analyze.
Pronouncing all my...
This holiday season, turn your home into a world of fun and adventure with Star Times.
Nichukue fursa hii kwanza kuwashukuru wale ambao wameweza kupanga huu mkutano kuwa mkutano wangu wa kwanza ni hapa Murang'a.
Now, we saw also Uhuru Kenyatta. We also saw Uhuru Kenyatta attending this meeting. And at some point, he had to actually endorse Matiang and at the same time warn the members of Mulima against sending abuses to Gachagua. And I was like, indeed, in politics, we don't have permanent enemies. I was just recalling the time when his goats, is it goats or sheep, that were actually picked from the farm, and whatever happened after. And of course, we've already heard Moses Kuria talking about the same thing. I don't want to go deep into it. But let's listen to what Uhuru said, defending Gachagua so much that I was surprised, and said that indeed the united opposition has decided. So let's listen to Uhuru Kenyatta a little bit.
Mwige dogotua au tineja byogacaria kiama kiria kirutaga wira wa kurumana no tigiki giakwa ni turaiguithania tigiki giakwa au tineja.
Now this is all Kikuyu. I want the Kiswahili.
Ni twekire maketia muno mwaka wa 2022 todo tutiarekire. A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Anyway, let's go to Kalonzo Musyoka first because I can't get that video for Uhuru Kenyatta at this event.
I'm not able to see who is right at the back. Or is it Wakili Boniface? No. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to do a very simple thing, and that is to launch this book. I asked myself, JB, why did you make me the chief guest? Is it because you thought I should buy very many books tonight and to give out there? Or is it because I may have written an autobiography for myself, and the title of which is Against All Odds and which is due for revision? Or is it because I'm older than you? I think it's because of the latter. That I realize this guy is 3 years younger than me, and he's from my neighborhood. I don't know why Brother Rigiji claims Muturi for his own kinsmanship. Because if you listen to JB speak Kikamba, he speaks without an accent. Even the way he pronounced my name before he came here, that's not the normal way you pronounce my name, because he is fluent. And then his home is near Ishara. From Kanyambora, where Lenny and him come from, to Sekuru is actually just less than maybe 30 kilometers.
So as I listen to Kalonzo Musyoka, as the guest of honor addressing the meeting, and to some point even talking about the cows he had taken to Raila Odinga's grave, I realized something about politicians. Of course, when politicians get to any meeting, they have somehow to drum towards their end. So it was more of a competition between Gachagua and Kalonzo Musyoka. You realize while starting, he's trying to actually create a share by pulling Muturi to his side, whereas Gachagua has already done it. Yeah, and he was the final speaker, but I've brought him in this discussion a little bit earlier because there was something I wanted to pass across. Now, one thing is for sure, when these people come to speak to us, we have to be very keen about what they are saying. And I want you to pay attention to what he'll say afterwards. And this is it.
And one who is also fearless. Even as we sat there with JB, I told him, Do you remember this friend who is running out of the country, is all over the place, and is trying to tell JB and I to mention that somebody at the very high level has already received a $10 million bribe to bring in rice from Pakistan or wherever. That is JB Muturi. And so I feel truly honored to associate myself with you, and also a party leader of Democratic Party. The founding Kiongozi, as you all know, was a gentleman I was privileged to serve under as his vice president. Not that he appointed me, but I negotiated. No, I learned a lesson in life. And as somebody, when we went, a lot of you may not know, I was also deputy speaker one time between the years 1989 to 1992. And then I went for an IPU conference, somewhere I think in Togo. And we wanted the late Joseph Muliro. How many of you remember Joseph Muliro? He was assistant minister one time for foreign affairs. And we wanted him to join the 9-member committee of parliamentarians from all over the world dealing with matters to do with climate change. And so we had some formidable challenges from that region, some of them claiming authority of their speakers. And I coined afresh. I said, in business, you don't get what you deserve. That is generally said. You get what you negotiate. So I learned that
So when I listen to Kalonzo Musyoka talking about you don't get what you want, but you get what you negotiate. I'm trying to use that phrase to actually understand the fact that we have so many candidates, presidential candidates, Kalonzo Musyoka, we have Natembeya, we have Matiang'I, we have Gachagua. So is he ready for what he will negotiate and not really what he wants? That's a question we have to ask ourselves. And again, Kalonzo Musyoka has served for the longest time in the government. He is indicated to be clean, according to many people, unlike so many of them. Do people still feel like Kalonzo Musyoka should be going for the position, or do they still have a bargain whether it should be Matiang'I or Gachagua? That's another question I'll drop for you. Maybe you can drop a comment as we get to see what Gachagua said.
Offense, for which men actually get impeached, not in Kenya, in other places of the world. So he lays it bare, including the role he had with his Mbere clansman who spoke here, Lenny Kivuti. Serious rivalry at their level. One region or whatever. He had actually also changed his name. Read that book. It's an amazing work of art. But he actually then says there, I will not sign it. That was JB. It is out there. And they say, release my son. We have seen the story of Leslie. So
JB has actually integrated in his book something to do with his son who was abducted, when he refused to sign something to do with an agreement we've had Gachagua sharing, the fights he had with Mere elders and all that. So the book should be, actually I should be getting a copy and reading to understand deeper into it. And then let's listen to what is this?
Thank you very much.
I want us to look at Gachagua. We listen to Gachagua and see how he's defending himself.
And in literature, you evaluate content and form. At the University of Nairobi in the 80s, there were two schools of thought. What defines a great work of art? One group led by the late Professor Chris Wanjara believed that a good work of art is content, what you say. Another group led by Professor Henry Dangasi believe that a good work of art is the form, how you say it. Reading this great book, I want to confirm that
it has both.
It is splendid in both content and form.
My name is
Commercial break again.
in Nakuru town. Our production is basically on.
You have told a good story and you have told it well. J.B. Muturia, my brother, is a great friend of mine. We have come from far. We were trying to make Uhuru Kenyatta president in the year 2002 together with Murathe. Those days I used to take Uji Murathe, I quit the club. I'm still told you are taking Uji in the lair. And we did not succeed. We proceeded until we made Uhuru Kenyatta president in 2013, and he became speaker. I joined him as a member of parliament in the 12th parliament. And we've been very close. Then we looked for government together, we were in the same cabinet. What JB has written here, especially the latter part, is true. And in the cabinet we served under Githinji, JB and I were the only true, honest people. When I left, he was left as the only one who is honest. When he left, there's nobody in that cabinet who is truthful. The rest are flower girls and yes, sir. And this is a good story, and these stories must be told. I will be telling mine, but not now. I'm too busy. I have some work to do. But I'll be doing a good work on the route of betrayal as we go on. It's good to tell this story because JB tried to bring order to government like he had brought in parliament. And JB was a good speaker. Despite the fact that he came from TNA, he never became a youth winger for Uhuru Kenyatta. JB and Kenneth Marede were two great speakers. It's unfortunate the speaker we have today is a youth winger. You find him in empowerment forums giving people maharagwe. And for that, JB, we salute you. You created order in parliament. You tried to create order in government and you got in trouble, like myself. That's why we are out with you in the trenches. Because you tried to create order. Let me confirm to the people of Kenya.
All right, guys.
The JB Muturi as Attorney General.
So Gachagua actually gave us information in relation to JB, indicating that JB rejected signing very shady deals, and that is why he was forced to get out, because it would have come to a situation of state capture. Now, one of the stories he reveals here is forthcoming, and I will let you listen before we come into analysis. And I just want to ask, if this is true, because I don't know how true it is, but if this is true, until JB, you know, I'm also a writer. Sometimes when I get into disagreements with people who cannot actually see their problem, and maybe I may not understand where the problem is, I get down and write a story. And I've written stories, though creative, but some of them, if you read carefully, you will understand that I'm writing about some situations surrounding me. And that is how it goes with art. So let's listen to what Gachagua is saying. And when I'll be buying the book, of course, I'll be doing an analysis right here to confirm what he's trying to say here.
And William Ruto called me very annoyed and very angry and full of abuse. Abusing JB Muturi in all manner of abuses. Wewe Regiji, tafuta hiyo mtu yako ya bere, hiyo mjinga. Bure kabisa hiyo mtu. Hii sanamu mlitoa wapi mliletea mimi? As Attorney General. Tell him, nitafuta ye kazi. I'm telling him to do things he cannot do. Tafuta ye, si mtu ya kabila yako. Huyu Ruto anasema hataki ukabila. Tafuta ye and tell him to sign those things. Hey, I called JB. Hey, AG, where? Those is burning. He is all over. Kwani umefanya nini? What have you done, my brother? You are in trouble. He said I was coming. I'm at the airport, and the boss has called me. I met some business people there and signed a contract on the runway. And I said I can't. I need to look at the document, give it to people at the chambers, interrogate, and advise government whether it's in order or not. I cannot sign. So I called the president. I said, no. Boss, what you're asking JB to do is wrong. He's on transit, and he's being given documents by people he doesn't even know to put his signature as Attorney General that it is right. And he stood his ground. He was trying to call government to order. I remember one day we were in Naivasha for a conference for cabinet secretaries and principal secretaries. And William Ruto called me to his room again and abused me and my community because of JB Muturi. Hii mtu yako ya bere, bure. Ebu muite hapo mwambie hiyo vitu nimwambie afanye. And he should not tell me anything. I'm the president. I am not a lawyer, but I'm the president. What I want must be done in this country. Can you look for him and you get back here uniambie? So nikatafuta JB, nikaita yeye kwa room yangu. JB, again wewe, you have robbed my boss the wrong way. What's the problem? JB said he is asking me to sign a deal and with the funds from the Settlement Trust Fund, SFT, for putting up an industrial park. This fund, by law, you can only buy land to settle squatters, to settle Kenyans who are landless. You cannot use it to buy land for intelligence service.
ClickUp AI Note Taker is...
All right, so we've heard a lot from that. We may not exhaust everything, but clearly Muturi seems to have come up with a book that is revealing a lot in relation to himself and the relationship with the government and some orderliness. We talk about lawlessness in the government. Can you imagine a government that is lawless? These are things that we teach in history and in literature, and sometimes we meet books where leaders are lawless. But we do not really see that deeply in our countries, apart from the few things that we look shallowly on top. But now when you begin listening to these narratives without being biased or just focusing on the message itself, then you see some messes big time.
Was out of town. I say Deputy President. And within 2 hours, his son was at home. This act, and we let him do what he wanted to do without too much argument. And he announced the first batch, and out of the position, not consulted me. We had an agreement.
So generally it means that possibly in a nation, maybe if you want to be a leader, and maybe we've heard this from Gloria Orwoba, by the way. We are now hearing from JB Muturi through his book. We are also hearing the same from GACHAGUA. So it is unfortunate that if our nations are this kind of nations where things have to be done wrongly, just because citizens maybe don't have a voice, and maybe the rest of the people just agree, the rest of the leaders, as GACHAGUA is calling them, flower girls. Now this does not happen in the country alone. It starts from the institutional level, even in houses. If your husband is doing a wrong thing or wife, do you just agree? For example, your wife tells you that you should not buy stuff for your mother. Do you agree? You know, it starts from the grassroots. We have to ask ourselves, even from the family level, what is it that a very close person suggests to you something wrong and you agree to do it? If your friend tells you that let us do this to so and so, do you agree? Maybe you are in charge of finances in an institution. Someone tells you, let us take this amount. Maybe you are a clerk, an accounts clerk, or a bursar. Then you are seeing a school doesn't have projects, but the principal tells you, let us take this amount of money. You will get these 2 million. I can get 5 million, and that will be done. Do you agree to do just because it will benefit you? Now, this is a part which now goes beyond personality, yourself. it now goes to personal sacrifice, where you better reject and whistleblow and let matters get to the worst, but you'll become a better person than who you are. However, it's unfortunate. Most people will go for option one. They'll be given that percentage and they go ahead and do whatever they have to do, and things are just quiet, and that's why we continue suffering. Anyway, our video has taken long. There is something I've not covered, and that is Uhuru Kenyatta. I wanted to get to Uhuru Kenyatta. You know, Uhuru Kenyatta now has come out recently trying to tell people not to throw abuses at GACHAGUA anymore. And I wanted to check that. I don't know why he's speaking in his mother tongue. Let me just see.
I'll be telling mine, but not now. I'm too busy. Taking me in circles. And I called William Ruto, he was out of town. I said, Mr. President, you had this idea. So he went and brought the list and threw it at me.
Where is this?
I looked at it and found that JB had been dropped from Embu and he had put somebody else. And then I asked him, who is this?
Yeah, let me check on Ruto, not Ruto, but Uhuru Kenyatta.
Thank you. A very good evening.
Kuna mtu hapa mimi nataka ni
Where is this?
one region or whatever. He had actually also changed his name.
Anyway, he's speaking in his mother tongue, but this is what he said.
No kiria kienda karagia ni kuona ati aratetera kiama gitu akirumaga ari angi uramarumira ki uramoria ki we ndwendie sera yaku ndwendie we uria urenda na nie kioni secretary general ni gukwira kuri nie maundu macio ma hindi ciothe guthoma mutandao andu ne ndioi anaroiga arugamirire Jubilee mararu magachagua na ku araru more ogino ndi kwenda maundu macio magikodi na to iguithania ithuĩ tũtirĩ kĩama kĩairu nĩguo o mũtongoria nĩ aheo gĩtĩo gĩake ari ũrĩa arenda nawe ũrũgame nawe warie ciaku mũingĩ ndũgũtua aikara nĩ atĩa niĩ macio niĩ ndikwenda bara ici citarĩ kũrĩa irĩ nĩ nonsense ĩndiũĩ kana nĩ mwaigua mũthuri ũyũ rĩ ona ngĩmwendaga rĩ.
Yeah, so I don't understand so much Kikuyu, but I have learned some sort of Kikuyu because I stayed in Kiambu for a while and those areas of Rorito. So I understand what Uhuru Kenyatta is saying here, that people should not keep making noise about the party that is Jubilee, because if anyone is in Jubilee, they should respect GACHAGUA according to him, because he says that he wants that unity of the opposition so that they can also secure their party. Their party is having a kind of death that will only be secured if they push Matiang'I to represent them in the united opposition. So if you listen at that speech, and of course I saw some analysis somewhere by Ikonini, someone who understands Uhuru Kenyatta. I just wanted to...
But Uhuru ametetea GACHAGUA. It's one of those things I didn't expect. Me neither. Because the fact that GACHAGUA used to talk shit, Yes. Especially when he was campaigning. So I never expected, but that is Uhuru.
Kioni secretary general ni gukwira kuri nie maundu macio ma hindi ciothe guthoma mutandao andu ne ndioi anaroiga arugamirire Jubilee mararu magachagua na ku araru more ogino ndi kwenda maundu macio magikodi.
So yeah, what I try to translate, but anasema ile maodo every time anasikia the people who are in the leadership abusing Gachagua, him he does not stand for that, yes? That's what he said, you know? He does not stand for that.
O mutongoria ni aheo gitio giake. Ari ore arenda nawe urugame nawe warie ciaku. Tondu andu no nginya macokanire makoro me kindu kimwe.
So kila mtu apewe chance. Amka useme kile utasema, amka kile utasema.
Lazima.
Alafu after the end of the day we gotta unite, si ndio? Okay.
Niĩ ndikwenda na ũrĩa niĩ ngaigua niĩ athiĩ na maũndũ ma kũrumana mũira rĩu akahinda gaka anyitĩrĩire mũira aheane kũrĩ arĩa angĩ mathiĩ na mbere niĩ ũrĩa nguona agĩka mĩtugo ĩyo niĩ ndikũhesitate kuga inje out nĩ nja.
Yeah, so hataki watu wa kurumana, yani kutukanana.
Kurumana. This time yenyewe before a pass on the baton.
Yes. So hataki story na.
Yeah, so of course from that speech, as I was saying, because I've brought another intervention from Ikonini, but it's clearly when I listen to that speech, I don't understand every Kikuyu word, but I understand some of it. So he was clearly saying that people should not be on internet throwing hurls or abuses at Gachagua, regardless of those differences they have had in past. He is ready to have everybody speak and present their thoughts, or rather their manifesto, and at the end of the day, let whoever will be picked, and let peace reign, because he's not for that. So actually, guys, I really appreciate you have come to an end, because we can't do a video beyond 1 hour 30 minutes. We will be coming for another video at 14, around 2:30. So thank you so much. May we replenish our energies, we take food, and later on we can come for another political video. Bye bye for now. I love you so much, my audience. Keep supporting me, keep letting me grow. Subscribe to the channel if you are new, and let's keep growing, because politics, we will not avoid it. Whether we like it or not, today, tomorrow, it will come up in Nigeria, in Uganda, in South Africa, in America, in India, and all over the world. And I'll have to cover that face by face. If you get any country that actually I have to talk about, let me know. You know, for Uganda, someone urged me yesterday, and actually I had to research on it before I came here to talk about it. But for Kenya, it's easy for me. I can easily have people contacting me, and then I back up with what I've seen on internet, then I research and talk about it. So bye-bye for now. May God bless you. Until we meet again at 2:40. Bye-bye.